Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the tank review for the brand new Ultimate Pass British Tier 10 medium tank, the Centurion Mark.5 AVRE. Now this is an absolutely memey tank. I think it's actually a pretty damn solid tank too as well. It's full of meme and it's pretty goddamn solid. It has some downsides in the gun being a bit derpy and the weird gun depression that is over this. As you can see, that gun is basically sitting on top of this sledge, which means it has 1 degree of gun depression overall over the front, but you do get 10 degrees over the side, so it has this weird, awkward playstyle that you've got to have to make it work. But it does have this big-ass 165mm gun, which is pure memes. It's a hell of a lot of fun to play. I just think it's pretty good fun to play. I think it's going to be a bit of a pain to play against these things at times because they do splash you for like 500-600 pretty consistently. And if they do hit you in the right spot, using either their standard or Prem HE, they will pen you for a hell of a lot. It's a little bit toxic, but at the same time, it's pretty fun to play. I feel sorry for everyone that's going to be playing in the next week or two, realistically, at Tier 10, because this is just, your matchmaking is just going to be these all day, for probably a couple of days at least anyway. But as a purchase for 6,000, well, it's not even 6,000 gold, it's technically 4,000 gold and then 2,000 for the season pass, for the ultimate pass. It's well worth picking up, in my opinion, because, well, number one, it's a tier 10 premium and you're only picking it up for 4,000 gold, and number two, because it is actually a pretty damn solid tank, because it's actually pretty damn competitive because this gun is so filthy, and at the same time, you can have just that fun dirt meme with it too, right? So let's get into the stats of the Centurion Mark.5 AVRE, or it's the FV4003 Centurion Mark.5 AVRE. It's got 695 horsepower with 48 km/h top speed and a 16 km/h reverse speed. 12.2 horsepower per ton isn't that bad, but it's not that good. It does feel very sluggish because I imagine the sledge on the front is pretty damn heavy and it's got a big gun, so it doesn't hit this top speed that easily. But if you're going downhill and stuff like that and you get that sort of momentum first, you will stick at 48 km/h, and it's not the slowest, and that's pretty nice for this meme to be used. And you do have a lot of fun with this top speed because, like I say, it hits it, but it's just very sluggish and slow to get up to it. Don't expect it to go whoomp and we're there already. You will get outrun by a lot of tanks. So that's just something to bear in mind. 16 km/h reverse speed is pretty damn good. That's fine for reversing around corners and stuff like that. I mean, once you're starting to get to 12 or 13, that's where it feels slow. 16 km/h reverse speed is pretty good. It's got 2,100 hit points, which is solid. It's pretty solid. That's a big slab of hit points to use. You've got 30 degrees a second on the hull rotation speed, which can feel a little bit sluggish and slow, like I say, with the top speed and everything, but it's not the worst. It's just, you might feel like you want to run something like clutch braking or run the traction system to get the extra track traverse. It's up to you. I feel like this is just about okay to use, and I'd rather focus on improving other stuff. It's got a 1.9 soft terrain resistance, 1.1 on medium, and 1 on firm. Now, these terrain resistances, the medium and firm, is actually really damn good. The soft terrain resistance at 1.9 is not great. So I tend to run off-road driving just to make this better generally, to help me, because obviously it is already sluggish enough as it is to be able to get to 48 km/h. I want to do my best to make sure that I hit that top speed. But like I say, randomly, you might, because these are so good and, you know, soft terrain is, you might just think, you know what, it'll be fine. You could just take off-road driving off and put clutch braking on, or rapid aim to make turret reverse better. Anything, really. It's up to you. Again, it's down to your playstyle. You got 353 meters of steel concealment, which isn't the best for a medium tank, but that's pretty standard, actually, for a Centurion, really. And if you put, like, camo net on and the camo skill and stuff like that, you can get it down to, like, 300 meters of steel concealment, which, for a derpy tank like this, can be pretty nice at times to be able to just abuse the camo, stay unspotted, and then slap an unsuspecting tank for like 1,400. I wouldn't recommend it because I think this tank needs to be a little bit closer to the action because of the way that the gun is derpy and stuff like that, and you want to focus on gun handling and stuff like that as opposed to making this better. You've got 400 meters view range, which is fine. That's pretty standard for a tier 10 medium. tier 10 in general, 400 meters is pretty standard, so that's great. You've got 36 degrees a second on the turret rotation speed, which isn't that bad, actually, to be honest. That's pretty decent. And because it's faster than the track traverse as well, that means you'll always be able to keep up with anything that tries to go around you if you traverse and turn the turret at the same time. Doesn't hamper you in that way, which is nice. Accuracy during rotation is god-awful at 3.02. That's because it is a derp gun. It's a 165mm L9A1 demolition gun. It's a derp gun. That is always going to be terrible, and 3.02 is pretty shocking. It blooms out a hell of a lot when you turn the turret. It's just something to bear in mind. You do have that 20 degrees of elevation and 10 degrees of gun depression. 20 degrees of elevation, fine. 10 degrees of gun depression comes with that caveat, like I say, that sledge on the front is in the way. And the gun is pretty much sitting on that sledge on the front. And that means you only have 1 degree of gun depression over the front of the tank, but you do get the 10 degrees of gun depression over the side. So if you're on a ridge line, you're best to take it at a weird, what would feel like an exceptionally weird angle, and go over with your side poking out and aiming down that way, because that's the way you're going to get the gun over. And you're probably going to see that in 1 or 2 of the replays. But naturally, be aware that you're probably going to get tracked a lot on ridgelines doing that, because you'll have to expose your front end first if you're going over, and that means your drive wheel's exposed, all that sort of stuff. So you just got to be very, very careful of that. That 10 degrees of gun depression is very awkward to use because of that sledge. It's just something to be aware of. You've got to know what you're doing. I mean, a lot of the time, you might want to try and bounce something off the front of that sledge, and then turn to get your gun on target onto the person and then shoot them, right? That's what you might want to do. Again, it's just learning how to deal with that sledge. You've got a 20-second reload, or 26-second reload, sorry, not 20 seconds. 26-second reload, which you can get down to like 19 or 20 seconds with all the stuff, which, for the alpha of 1400 on the standard rounds, or 1100 on the premium, is actually pretty decent. That's in a pretty good state of its reload. I mean, you're thinking stuff like, well, other big caliber guns with this sort of reload are sitting on something similar, maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher. It's pretty standard for the type of alpha, right? And it's pretty damn nice to use, because also you've got a 0.42 accuracy, which, for again a big ass gun that fires HE like this, is pretty good. Because I mean, you're talking a lot of the derp guns, unless it's, say, an FV4005 or a Death Star. I mean, I think the Death Star sits in at this similar level to this. The 4005 is better, but a lot of other derp guns that hit this hard, tend to have like that 0.5 range, right? I mean, I'm looking at something like a Sturm Tiger or something like that. 0.42 is actually pretty solid. So yeah, and you can't run vert stabs on this, so you can't make that better with that, but you can make that and get that lower with stuff like steady aim and all the gun perks. So this is actually not that inaccurate relatively. The thing that really sort of you start to struggle a bit with is the shell velocity, and that's something you've got to be careful of. You've got a 4.4 accuracy drone movement, which is utterly trash. That is awful, awful, awful. Don't try and shoot. I mean, naturally, run, and gun. Run, and gun, and that will drop a hell of a lot. And you can still pull off meme-ass shots, and it's really funny when they do hit. And it's even funnier because this accuracy stat is dreadful on the move. So, yeah, the recommendation is sit and aim your shots, people. Sit and aim your shots, and you will do okay. Don't try and fire on the move. And as soon as you do move, the gun blooms massively because this is terrible. You've got a 2.5 second aim time, which is, again, for this type of gun, really pretty solid. And with the stats you'll get it down to, it's like 2.3. So that's actually pretty solid, which is really random. I thought it would have been worse, but 2.5 second aim time, not going to moan at that. You've got 2 rounds of HESH, which have 185mm of pen on the standard and 240 on the premium. Now, this is why I run the ammo swapper, because you can, if you know that you could pen something with 185, you're going to load that and you can damage them for 1,400 damage, as you see in here. Because the premium HESH has 1,100 HP of damage, but 240 pen. So it's that trade-off of, I can probably pen this tank for 1,400, I'm going to do it, Or you can switch to the 240 pen, where there's tanks that you need to be able to have 240 pen to be able to pen things and get that 1100 alpha out. But as well as that, if you're facing a tank like a Type 5 Heavy, or E100, or anything like that, you're best to fire the 185 pen Hesh, because it's got higher alpha, it will splash for more. So you're best to just fire the standard at heavily armoured tanks, and the tanks you think you can pen, then fire the premium Hesh. And that's where the ammo swapper's quite nice for that difference, right? You got 4.95 blast radius as well, which is pretty decent, which means you'll splash a little bit around people if you hit them in the side and people are cuddling. But yeah, you've got 685 meters a second on the 240 Prem Hesh, by the way, and 570 on the standard. So you actually have slightly better shell velocity on the premium Hesh, and worse on the standard. So let's go have a look at the crew of the AVRE. I have put it in the FV4002. Like I said, there's probably a couple of ways you can set up this 4202, this AVRE, sorry, and it's down to your personal preference. So I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Track Mechanic, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Off-Road Driving. Off-Road Driving, like I said earlier on, while the other two terrain resistances are really good, the soft terrain resistance is quite poor, and I want to help the mobility of it with that off-road driving. But, this is only really a template crew. So this is a basic template, and you can set it up to how you want the tank to find. I would say that everything other than off-road driving is what you want to take. Or if you decide, you know what, I'm never going to fire on the move, don't take run and gun. Again, it's up to you. But for the most part, everything but off-road driving you're going to take. You might take rapid aim to make the turret traverse better. You might take clutch braking to make the track traverse that's 7.5% better. You might take camouflage expertise just to make your camouflage that little bit better. You know, stay unspotted a little bit longer and be able to surprise people with the big ass gun. You might take firefighting, because if you think this thing gets set on fire a lot, which I haven't experienced necessarily, so that's down to you. You might even take supply conservation to make sure you get food back a lot quicker, so you can make your aim time and your accuracy a little bit better more often, right? Or general mechanic, because of that thing that, you know, you're exposing your track a lot when you're going over ridge lines. People track you, while track mechanic gets your track on very, very quickly. You can put general mechanic on, and it's literally like a 2 or 3 second stopgap, and then the track's back on, and you get away. You might also, I've experienced a little bit that the ammo rack on this tank is a bit fragile, so you might take safe stowage as well to improve the ammo rack. They're all the different options that you could probably take that would be just as good on this tank as off-road driving. Like I say, this is just a basic template. It's up to you and how you want to set it up. So with that in mind, and let's put the equipment on as well. So we're going to drop some food on there like normal. Like I say, I run the rammer, or the advanced loader. I run advanced reload, which is the ammo swapper, and optics to be able to spot for myself, because I want to be able to spot for myself. With that, I get it up to 512 meters of view range. Naturally, you could think, you know what, 512 is overkill, I'm going to run vents, and that will still get you to 476, which is good enough, and will make everything else better. But I personally like having the view range to be able to spot for myself, and then, you know, being able to blap people without being really outspotted all that much. So let's have a quick look at the stats while it's fully equipped. So as you see, you've got the terrain resistance down to 1.43, and then below sub 1 on the others, which is really good terrain resistance. Really helps with that 48 kilometers an hour top speed. So you've got 512 meters view range now, which is amazing. You got 39 degrees a second on the turret rotation now as well, which is nearly 10 degrees better than the hull rotation. That's fine. Your accuracy during rotation is down to 2 from the 3, I think it was, which is a lot better. It's a lot nicer, and it definitely feels, if you didn't have a crew in this tank, it'd feel horrific with the gun handling. With the crew and the equipment, it feels a lot nicer. As you can see, you've got the reload down to an 18.96, which is filthy for this alpha, to be honest. It's pretty filthy. You got from 0.42 accuracy down to 0.34 accuracy, which is fantastic for this type of gun. Was it 4.44 was the accuracy during movement, now down to 3.16. That is a huge difference. It's still horrendous, though. Okay, it's still horrific, but it's a huge difference. And you get it down to a 2.3 second aim time, which is pretty damn solid for this kind of tank. And obviously, if you run a GLD, that'll get even better. Again, that's something you can run instead of optics or vents. It's up to you. And if you were to pen all these shots, you get 4.4k DPM. Yeah. Nice, eh? That's pretty dirty. Pretty dirty. But yeah, that's the Centurion AVRE in a nutshell with all its stats. Like I said, I'm just going to show you this armor model, by the way. So this sledge on the front is 30mm of spaced armor. And then that little bit extra on top is 20. It's got little gaps, which, you know, you can just see the hull through. And that is a spot you can try and aim for to go through, but that upper plate is well spaced, so you've got to be careful of that too. The turret armor is typical Centurion armor, so it's really, really solid, as you see, with 254. And if you go hull down with this thing, it's going to bounce quite a lot. But it does have the cupola, and you will see I have penned people with this cupola by firing with my AVRE at theirs, because, like I said, I've seen quite a lot of AVREs playing this thing, and you can pen that and get some pretty dirty pens on it. So it's something you can aim for if you're on flat ground, is that cupola. And like I say, it's got 40mm of spaced armor on that lower plate as well, which is half covered by the 30mm of spaced armor. This thing, when you're shooting at it from the front, is very, very awkward. There are gaps, as you can see. There's a little gap right here. As you can see here, there's a little gap here between the spaced armor where you can pen it, and I know people have penned me with it as well. And also, if you are shooting at this thing, and it's trying to use its gun depression, that's the best way of thinking about it, right? It's trying to use its gun depression. It does have 50mm of armor that's above the spaced armor here. This bar here, and then it's also, if I can find it, only 14mm thick on that part there as well. If these things are using the gun depression and trying to aim over like this, they've turned the turret, it makes this a giant spot to shoot. If you are firing in an AVRE at another AVRE, shoot these little space bits here, this little bit above the tracks, and you're going to do a fair whack of damage to it and pen it there. I've been penned there a few times. I've also penned other people there a few times too. So that's the armor. Like I say, it's a bit it's a very, very quirky armor profile, and it's a very quirky tank in general. Is it worth it, in my personal opinion, before we go to the replays? I think so. 6,000 gold. I think the ultimate pass is always worth it, to be honest. If the tank's 3/4 decent, it's always worth going for that, because 4,000 gold for it is solid, and then you get all the perks of having that ultimate pass. And this tank is a solid tank. It's a hell of a meme as well, and it'll be a lot of fun to play. Will it be fun to play against? I'm not really sure. I think it's, especially if you're a more lightly armoured tank, this is going to be an absolute pain when it comes along and goes, hello, 1400, and then you bounce off the random spaced armour. Yeah. So as always, everybody, I'm going to send you to the replays where you can make your own mind up. I'm going to have 4 replays for you. 2 of my best games and 2 of the more average games I've had in it. And, well, I'll see you in the replays. So here we are in the replays with the Centurion AVRE. This was actually the first game I played in the tank. And it gave me a little bit of a good idea of how it was going to play, how awkward it can be, but also how devastating it can possibly be if you catch the certain tanks in compromising positions. And there is 3 bots in this replay, because it was literally like, as soon as the server went up, I was like, aha, I've got you, I want to play you now. And joined in within like 30 seconds of the server going up, and thus there was 3 bots. But I never actually get to shoot at the 3 bots, except for the one that drives in front of me. I didn't even get to shoot at that because I was waiting for the reload. So, yeah, I just thought, hey ho, this was a pretty decent, sort of more average game. One that wasn't full of AVREs too, as well. That's the other thing. Because that's what I've tried to do, except for I've tried to pick some replays that obviously have a lot of AVREs in it, which are probably more likely the replays that actually went pretty well. And also some replays that don't have a ton of AVREs, because that's just a bit unrealistic, because it's just the way it's going to be, unfortunately. And you've just seen the deadliness of this gun, because, and the reason I love the ammo swapper, right, because if I'd come up against that Gorilla, and I'd just gone, you know what, I'm just going to load 1100 Hesh all the time, I wouldn't have been able to hit that guy for 1388, well, I might have done, if I'd rolled well enough, right, but I could just switch to the, you know, the less pen Hesh, and then slap a big Hesh shell at that Gorilla, and we slapped him for 1388. The perfect tank to see for me, realistically. Unfortunately enough, we realised just as he was trying to angle for a shot there, that he was trying to get a shot at us, and we managed to get away from it. We keep getting detected by artillery, so I'm like, nope, I don't want that, because he's already hit me and damaged my ammo rack. There we go, one of them's at least fired at us, and my thoughts are, you know what, no, I'm going to push up to this rock now and try and get some shots at this 780. But just as we're going, there's like, oh, there's a Vanguard there. He ends up hitting some trees, and we shut down that Vanguard. There's a Barask we end up spotting in an awkward position for me. I'm like, oh god, that's not what I wanted to see when I was coming this way. And we're just looking... I was thinking, oh my god, I can one-shot this guy. That's my thought. I can one-shot this guy. But this 780 is a bit of a pain because he's here. Unfortunately, the 430 version 2 ends up bouncing on him. So I'm like, okay, I've got to shut down this. I actually have to shut down this 780. I can't just leave him be. And we do shut the guy down. Again, I didn't have to pen it because I don't only have to splash it to kill it. And now we're just looking for that pixel shot on the Barask. He thinks he's safe. Absolutely not. And we slap the shot in for 630 to finish off that Barask too. And we're up to 3 kills in this game with 2.2k damage. I'm just waiting for the gun to reload. Like I said, the thing is, this gun does feel like it takes a wee bit to reload. But it's got that sort of alpha that's dirty, right? That when you're hitting shots that are beautiful, it doesn't... Well, when you're hitting shots like you do on that Gorilla, it doesn't actually feel that bad. And we slapped that shot there. We switched to the 240 pen Hesh to be able to guaranteed pen that WZ-111 GFT there. And we managed to shut him down. Because I was mainly going for the lower plate. And the 180 might not have quite penned, and I didn't want to chance that, or the 185. I didn't want to quite chance that. And there we ended up spotting the GW Tiger and get the kill on him for 5 kills there. Kind of unfortunate that we moved forward a little bit too early with the reload, because if we'd actually been reloaded there, we'd have got a nice big pen on that guy for like 1400, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, we can't quite get there for the artillery either to be able to get the Pascucci's medal. But, yeah, we managed to slap the shell in to shut down the Gorilla there that just came out of nowhere. And we get the top gun. We get the 6th kill, as you can see with the ribbons, which is a nice UI change we've got. And the other thing, to be fair, that I haven't really... I should have mentioned it really when we were in the garage, and that is we've got the old garage back. The garage from, like, 4 or 5 years ago. Wonderful to see that garage back. And it's actually great that they've brought in that ability that, like, World of Warships has, to be able to change garage if you want. All you've got to do is go to your menu and you actually literally have garage options, and you can switch between the hangar garage, or you can switch to the... I'm going to call it the 6.0 garage, the Cold War garage. That's what we're going to stick with, it's Cold War garage. You can switch between the hangar garage or the Cold War garage, and that's really cool. And I love the hangar garage because I truly think it makes the tanks look awesome when you're looking at them in the hangar, you know, in the garage. I think the tanks look incredible in there. They've just got that shine to them. They look pretty awesome, and I think it's a great change. Also a great change, I think, is that box from the top left-hand corner has gone. They've got rid of that, and as you can see when we look at someone like this, well, he's not actually been hit, so he's got no damage modules. But when we actually look at someone who has damage modules, the damage modules now go below the reticle, as you'll have seen in some of these replays, which is a great change, because that brings it into your eye line, and it's actually information that's really useful, so you can use it. It was always nice to have it in that box, but the thing is, I never looked at that box. It just took my eye away from the game. And now, as you can see, the track, that fellow pleb actually has his track damage. When I look at him, it just pops up there, and that's really nice. And I think it looks good as well. It's not like it's an eyesore. It's there, and it's nice to have. So here's where I like the ammo swapper. I can't really pen it with 108 to pen the Fatherland. Switch to the 240. Bam, 1085 pen, just like that. I could have chanced it with the 185 pen. I might have penned it, but again, I might not have done. So I just wanted the full pen, and that's what we managed to get on that guy. And now we're going to go chase after this Iron Arnie. But yeah, those UI changes. Those UI changes are lovely. I really like them. I also like the gold writing, yellow writing, you know, when you pen someone that you're seeing now. When it's your damage or your platoon's damage, you know, so if you shoot someone, or your platoon mate that you're with shoots someone and they're directly in front of you, the number will pop up yellow. That's that colorization of it's the color coding really of your damage versus somebody else's damage is lovely. It just helps you to identify, especially when a tank gets absolutely blacked by everything, it helps you to identify the fact that you actually damaged it and how much damage you actually did to it. It's nice. So here we find the Iron Arnie. It's like, haha! Oh, I didn't quite get it. The Death Star managed to get shut down Natty New, and we finished the game with 6 kills, 4.8k damage, 53 assistance. The Top Gun, 2nd class, 1428 base XP. Pretty decent game for the Centurion AVRE. Pretty average game what you're going to get in it, really, where you get that sort of spaced out combat. and you just sort of traverse around, you find people that you can pen, you pen them, and you might splash the odd shell. And here's another average game we got, and again, this replay only has like, well, there's 3 on my team, but there's only 1 on the enemy team, so we're only going to have to face 1 AVRE, which is decent. You're going to get to see what this tank can do against other tanks that aren't AVREs, because it's been a pain playing today in this, because naturally, the Ultimate Pass, the AVRE is one that a lot of people are very, very interested in, just because it's an AVRE, let alone the fact that it's, you know, it's a pretty damn good tank, and it's a dirt gun tank. So there's a lot of them in the matchmaker, and it made it a bit of a pain to play to be able to get the sort of replays that I wanted to show off, because while obviously I've had some damn nice games, and you can see those in the next 2, and there's quite a few AVREs in those replays, it's not a true reflection, really, of the games, because you're not going to get games where there's 6, 7, 8 AVREs every single time, and these things are a bit of an enigma to play against as your own AVRE, because of the fact that the armour on it is just funky, right? Now, that's the best way to describe the AVRE's armour. It's funky. Nice shot there to shut down the Falcon. Because I've bounced a lot. I've bounced Jagdpanzer shells. I've bounced Death Star AP rounds off the front of this tank. But then I've been penned by fellow AVREs for 1400 who have clearly fired the standard Hesh. And I sit there going, you what, mate? How did that happen? All right, okay. You know, the armour on it is really funky. It's just odd. And the best thing to do is when you're going after people is just wiggle in front of them and hope that they don't hit. Because I think that's the thing. There's little gaps in the spaced armour that people can hit. And if you wiggle, it makes it extremely hard for them to hit that, and thus you'll make your armour as good as possible. So right here, you're seeing why I like the ammo swapper. That chisel, I'm not going to be able to pen with the standard Hesh, but I load the premium Hesh because I know if I hit that upper plate with the premium Hesh, I'm going to be able to pen him. And we slap a nearly 1200 damage round straight through his upper plate, and he gets shut down by the 780, who's a fellow friend on the team. And that's where this thing is just filthy, because that ability to just pen people for 240, for 1100 is dirty. And it's, like I say, it's pretty accurate, so it does hit those shots. The only drawback to this gun, the true drawback to this gun, is the fact that shell velocity is not very good. But it is a dirt gun, so that's what you expect. But being able to just, you know, pen people for a fair amount, or like that shot on the ISM there, where I didn't actually have to pen him, I just splashed him for 485. Because that's the other thing, you're not penning people, you're still splashing them for 500, 600. And while that might not be that good, really, realistically, for a 19-second reload or an 18-second reload, it's still a lot when you have the potential to be able to pen them for a lot. So you see I load the 240 Hesh pen again, because I can pen that droid of the Minotaur. But I didn't want to expose myself too much to that Centurion AVRE on my left, because again, he would delete me. And I ended up trying to chance the shot and missed it on the Minotaur. Now that AVRE is going in on my 2 friends, I'm not going to be able to get the shot at him, so I'm just going to go after the Minotaur and try and be able to pen this guy. He's got 1200 hit points, so I might high roll enough. And we do manage to slap a big shot into the back of his turret for 1148. It's so satisfying to pen people with this thing. It's just, you hit those big numbers and you're like, oof, that's pretty dirty. And it can be a hell of a, it's just a hell of a lot of fun to play, to be honest. I've really enjoyed playing it. I've really enjoyed running around and derping people with it. Like I said, I just feel like it's going to be one of those pain-in-the-ass tanks, right? Not like a Tyran, where the Tyran is just, you don't really spot it, and it just still whittles away all of your hit points. It's just going to be one of those tanks that's similar to an FV4003, right? Where it just drives up, goes, oh, hello, friend. Bang! 1400 hit points just gone in the blink of an eye. And you sit there going, oh. And this thing would probably do it a little bit more reliably than the FV4003 as well, with a bit of, because it has the durability as well, it can be that little bit more aggressive. Because you've got turret armor, you've got that frontal armor, which is, like I say, a bit troll in the fact that it sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But at the same time, it will be that bit more aggressive, and it will just drive up to you and slap you in the face, because it knows it can bounce things, like we just bounced that 30B. Although it is something that is a little bit awkward to use, because, and people will probably make a lot of mistakes playing the tank, because they will give you a free shot when they come after you, because of having to get the gun down on target and having to turn basically sideways on to be able to get the gun to be able to shoot you, right? So that was a pretty average game for the Centurion AVRE. We managed to get a few shots off here and there. We managed to do a little bit of damage. We managed to do 4.2k damage, 3 kills, the third class, 1187 base XP. Decent game for the Centurion AVRE. It's showed you what you can do when you get on the ridgeline, how it can be a little bit awkward when it is on the ridgeline. I did have to overexpose to be able to shoot that chisel, but at the same time, when I did blap him, when I used the ammo swapper to choose the right round, because I think a lot of the tank is going to be choosing the right round for the right situation as well, we did a lot of damage to him, and it really hurt that guy. So we're on to probably my second best game I've had in the tank. We're on Erlenberg, and we are going to push towards the castle. And I'm pushing towards the castle because I like to make sure that before I make the play of going over the bridge and into the little gap that's at E6, I do like to make sure that this flank is clear for the most part, and that I'm not going to take that position and find that the flank behind me falls and then I start getting shot in the back, because that position that I do like to take, which you're going to see in a bit, is very open from my own base. And so if they take this flank, it then becomes a death trap, and yes, it's not conducive to a fun time, realistically. So we're just going to boost our view range with food even more. We're going to push forward to see if we can spot anything crossing. The heavy tank is further ahead of me. I'm thinking, right, okay, if that heavy tank hasn't spotted anything, I've not seen anything. A lot of tanks just got spotted over there. I'm just going to make the play. And this is where the mobility of the tank is pretty nice. You can see we went downhill, and now we've just hit that 48 kilometers an hour, and we're off on our way. We're consistently holding that between 46 and 48. And this is where the mobility can be nice. It's a lot different to, again, some of the other derp guns as well, say like the FV4005. That is a really unfortunate that shell dipped. But yeah, this is where the mobility is different to, say, the 4005, because the 4005 can only go at like 35 kilometers an hour. This can go at 48. It helps it get ahead on the battlefield a lot more to be able to get you in those positions to use the gun, as well as having the durability of the armor, which, again, makes this headshot a fair bit more deadly than the 4005s. So now we're in the position I like to take. This is a solid position to take, and it's because you can spot all the people on this ridgeline, and you can try and deal out some big damage from it. You can try and keep these guys lit, and if you do keep them lit, your team can also shoot them, and I've had some big assistance games from this position. Our team has pushed quite aggressively across the AB line. I'm not quite sure why they did. Most of the time I've played this map, that doesn't happen, but for some reason it did in this game. To be honest, playing this game today has been a bit odd with the plays that people have made. There's been just some weird pushes that it's like, that never happens. Why is that happening? It's been like it all day. And this is one where most of my team, except for like 5 people, actually push straight across the AB line. And people don't tend to do it. Usually find like 2, 3 tanks maybe do it, and then a load of people sit in base. But they went for it. And there we go. We get a nice shot into the Kampfpanzer there, because these guys are obviously all distracting them, and that Kampfpanzer tried to get over to get a shot at us. He ended up bouncing off our frontal armor. I was kind of sad that I didn't pen that guy, but we did just splash him for 505 and damage his modules, because naturally we're firing big caliber Hesh as well, all HE. We're going to do some major damage to these guys as modules when we actually hit them. I'm kind of sad that that shell didn't pen the side of that AVRE's turret. I was fully expecting it to, but maybe there's a little bit of space down on the side of the turret, and that's why it didn't go in. And we only did 400 odd damage. And that's the difference. When you don't pen with the premium Hesh, you do a lot less damage with the splash. And that's, again, why I like to have more standard Hesh and then just use the premium where I can. Because you will face a lot of tanks where you might probably not pen them with 240, or it just be awkward. And it's nicer to have that bigger splash damage, or bigger damage in general with the splash, because you've got the 300 extra Hesh, well, 300 extra damage, and you can do just that little bit extra damage with it. And I like the fact that this 180 pen does, because it's 185, it does pen a lot more plates than you'd expect to, and it's very, very deadly. So, right here on Erlenberg, I decide I'm going to push up to their ridgeline, because we're kind of still holding up, and then, oh, that shot doesn't, he had his big juicy lower plate straight at me, and it unfortunately doesn't go in. That was me going, oh, nom, 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 goodbye, Mr. Kampfpanzer, and it just didn't delete him, and now I'm like, oh god, Mr. AVRE, don't pen me. He ends up slapping me for like 400, well, 500, 600, something like that, and unfortunately he got tagged by another AVRE as well. And unfortunately, we couldn't quite get the gun down because of the awkward gun depression. And that Kampfpanzer ends up coming over and giving us a shot in the side, which we return a shell at him for like 300-400 damage. So the gun depression can be awkward. I was just so sad I didn't pan that Kampfpanzer, but that's the derpy gun handling for you, right? It's not the most accurate gun, it is a derp gun, and those sorts of shots where you're thinking, I've got you dead to rights, will happen where they just miss, and that'll be frustrating. So right here I have 180 pen Hessian, and I'm thinking, oh yes, that's the back of his turret, that's going to go straight in for 1400. Nope, that did not go in, and unfortunately we only damaged, I say only, we only splashed him for 702 damage, but that's realistically because that basket at the back is actually 40mm of spaced armour, and I should have really known that because I think it's very similar to that on the Centurion 7.1 as well, is what it is. And now we're into a derp war, and it's a derp war that I'm not a big fan of. I'm being very, very careful of that T-54 that's on the right, because he keeps trying to get shots at me, and I don't want to take another hit, because at the minute, actually, I am kind of a one-shot for the Centurion AVRE if he decides to come over and splash me. But he's also in a fairly similar position. We're in an RNG war, essentially. Or, he's in 913 hit points, but we're in an RNG war, because it's just down to what happens when we splash each other. That's it, literally. So I've just got to be very, very careful because my game could get shut down at any point here. So we're just taking it very, very steady. But now that Centurion AVRE has disappeared, I'm thinking, okay, is he still looking at me or is he gone? Nope, he is still looking at me. I'm like, oh god, he's going to kill me. Thankfully, he misses. Again, that's just the gun being derpy for you, which is fine. And it's like, right, okay, I'm going to load the premium, I'm going to load the standard Hesh, sorry, and there we go. That's the shot I'm talking about. I waited for him to pull forward, and I had that sliver of that back end engine deck that sticks up, and we penned it because it's only 40mm thick or 30mm thick, whatever it was when I showed you in the garage. We penned it easily for that 900 damage, and it was like, well, I'm going to pen that with the premium or the standard Hesh no matter what, so I'm going to make sure that if I don't pen it, I'm going to splash him for a lot more with the standard HE. That's why I switched back to the standard Hesh. And we managed to actually shut down that AVRE with that shot. That's what I was talking about. If you see one of those things and they're sort of angled exactly like that, you can get the shot into that spot. So right there shows what the sledge can do to your splash damage, right? Because like I did on the AVRE earlier on, I shot that AVRE into the sledge and only did 261 damage. Whereas I'm shooting at other tanks, it'll do a big slab more. 611 to that one. I was aiming for that bar again. Like I say, it doesn't always hit, and naturally you have to avoid the spaced armor to be able to get that shell in to penetrate the AVRE there. And unfortunately we didn't get it in, but we did hit him for 600 odd. We're just aiming again, aiming for that spot, and it actually flies high and hits him for 650 this time, and we shut down the other AVRE. We're up to 3 kills with 6.2k damage. We know where the artillery is, we're just waiting for the reload, but unfortunately we're not going to get there to get that shot. And we finish the game with a very nice total for the Centurion AVRE. We finished with the victory, 3 kills, 6.2k damage, 719 assistance, the sniper, high caliber, the first class, 1647 base XP. A really solid game for the Centurion AVRE. It showed it, really that replay kind of showed it all right, where it showed where the gun can be derpy, and you're thinking like with on the Kampfpanzer where I thought I had him dead to rights, it didn't happen. Where some of the shell velocity shots didn't help and we missed them, especially if you don't fully aim the shots. But also kind of the deadliness of the gun when you hit the spots you want to for damage, and this replay is going to show that even more, because this is the best game I've had in the tank, and it's a pretty dirty one. It's probably actually the reason I've done 4 replays, because I normally do 3 replays, but this one was so exceptional I thought, you know, I'm going to have 4 other replays that show off the tank, and then this one, which is kind of crazy. And yeah, it kind of showed off everything, right? And the ability that you have to pen people, but also the splash damage, the derpiness, just the armor working in general, what it's like to face against other Centurion AVREs with this AVRE, and also, yeah, just facing other tanks. So this replay here is on Vineyards, and again, I don't think there's that many AVREs in this replay, which was one of those like, yes, that means I can show the tank off a little bit more with a lack of them in the game. We're just aiming for the shot on the Panzer 58 Mutz. Unfortunately, it doesn't go in. I decided, you know what, I'm not going to go down to the JK. I'm going to push this hill here, because I spawned closer to this hill. I thought, you know, I'm going to go over this way. I'm going to see if I can push around the base this way. And right now, this T-34-2, I have no idea what he's doing. He's caught out very, 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 very in the open. It doesn't even feel like he saw me there. And we managed to shut him down. Because if he'd just kept going, he would have stayed safe from me right into that rock. But, yeah, we managed to shut down the T-34-2 for 368 damage. Now, I was looking for shots across there, but they, unfortunately for me, get spotted. I'm like, okay, what's over here? I think there was a Ragnarok that I spotted, and I'm like, that could be a juicy pen if I get that right. There's a Type 5 Heavy, so I'm keeping the standard Hesh pen, but I've also got the premium, because I have pen Type 5 Heavies. Oh, that poor Ragnarok. I have pen Type 5 Heavies Cupolas with that 240 Hesh, so it's just down to RNG, really. So I was thinking maybe I'll launch this premium Hesh round into his Cupola and see if I can get it. And that Ragnarok we pent for 1380, that is filthy. Now we've got the premium Hesh in, and it's like, oh, hello, Mr. VK101P. I can't pen that guy's lower plate with the standard Hesh, but for 1048, I can pen his lower plate with the premium Hesh. That is a really dirty pen, and it was really satisfying to watch that shell going. But we're, less than 3 minutes into the game, we're up to 2.7k damage. Just looking for a shot that projected 66, couldn't see it. Then the Type 5 turns his turret, and I'm thinking, yes, I can pen that, but unfortunately he just didn't turn it enough, and we couldn't quite pen it. But he has full turned as well. If I'd waited an extra second or two, I might have actually been able to get a penning shot on that Type 5's turret, but it is what it is. We've now got this projector 66 staring out of the corner. I'm thinking, yes, I can pen that. Oh, he's just behind the rock, which means the shot just doesn't quite connect. And that's why we loaded the premium Hesh again, because again I can pen that guy. It's about using the premium Hesh where you can pen people with 240 and you can get that guaranteed really high alpha, and you're probably not going to pen them with 180 pen or 185 pen, but you keep the standard Hesh loaded for tanks that that you have a good chance of penning with the standard Hesh, and you can do 1400 damage. So right here, I believe this guy's probably just unloaded this whole clip, and we managed to slap the shot in for 977 through his upper plate with the 240 Hesh, which is juicy. So right now we're up to 4.2k damage, and we're less than 4 minutes into the game, and it's like, oh my god, this game has been massive so far already. So what we're going to do is push after this 752, and see if we can spot anything else that's lying in wait along the FG line. And we end up spotting the VK101P as we're coming along. Someone ricochets off the back of him. I keep the 240 Hesh penning, because again, I can pen that with the 240 Hesh. Make sure the shot's mostly aimed and a little bit led, and thankfully the shot flies straight in to the back of that guy's tank, and we shut him down. We're up to 4.9k damage, and at the minute, this game's in a good position. We've got enough people in good places that I'm like, okay, right, we're going to go after this 752. The other AVRE is going for it as well. We slam the big shot of 240 Hesh through his lower plate for 1100, and my AVRE friend shuts him down. Now we're detected, I'm thinking, oh god, that's not good. But thankfully, for me, it actually hits my friend in the AVRE, but only does 300 damage to him, which is fine, because it was another AVRE, and that's what I was figuring it would be. We see a HE round fly from that back end. I'm like, okay, that's another AVRE somewhere over there. So what I'm going to do is, now that I know he's fired, I'm just going to push aggressively as I can forward over here and see if I can light it up. And there we go. It is another AVRE. We fire a shot at him on the move, and it flies straight at him for 372. I mean, it would have been nice to pen that shot randomly on the move, because that would have been a great meme. But well, I mean, we'll take it, right? We'll take it. Because as you've seen, the dispersions on the move are utterly atrocious. We're up to 6.3k damage, so we're up to nearly what we had in the last game end result. And we're nearly 5 minutes in. And it's like, okay, what I'm going to try and do is get over to shut down this AVRE, who just got shut down, but he got shut. This is what I'm saying. He got shut down, so I was like, okay, I'm not going to go over and try and get that guy now. I can go after this T30. I love the 240 Hesh pen, because I can shut down this T30 in one shot. I'm thinking, right, I can take a hit from this guy and then get rid of him. He is looking at me. He pens me, but I shut him down for 1024. Just like that, he's gone. That's, again, where it's nice to have that guaranteed Hesh pen. And I was just looking for a shot at this projector 65. And unfortunately, he just gets beyond the hill. The Centurion AVRE over there as well is in an awkward position. I just leave the standard Hesh in, though, to be able to get the shot to finish off that guy. Unfortunately, the shell just shows its derpiness. It flies way above that 65 and doesn't finish him off. I can't stay here, because if I get spotted, they both have good shots at me. So that's not what we want to do. So what I'm going to do is clear out behind me. I want to get rid of this AVRE that we know was behind me out of the game. Because by doing that, my ass is safe, and then I can attack the guys along the 9 line. I'm just hoping my friends stay safe and don't get shut down. Unfortunately, the Bulldog gets shut down by the Projector 65, though. But that 65 pays for that by getting shut down by the Ragnarok. But unfortunately, their AVRE also then goes and shuts down the Ragnarok 2. Which leaves me and another AVRE against 2 AVREs and a Becky Lynch. And it's like, this is awkward. We're up to 7.5k damage. This guy has not got a clue we're coming. We slapped the shell through the side of his turret for 529 and shut him down for the 5th kill of the game. We're up to 7.9k damage. And it's like, right, okay, this is on. I need to basically have my friends survive with me, and we know what the hit points of these tanks are. That AVRE was 1800, something in that range, because he was the one that was at J9, and the Becky Lynch is full health. And I'm thinking maybe they're still up there, but I'm just going to take it wide. And we actually get spotted by the Becky Lynch. So I try and get a shot at him, and it looked like it was flying true. But unfortunately, the shell just misses that Becky Lynch. He hits us on the move, ran just before he gets behind that rock. And we're also lucky that that AVRE missed us there. Now, again, I've got to be careful, because I'm in that one-shot range for if he pens me with the 185 or even with the standard Hesh. And I say the armour on this tank is really random, that sometimes it just gets penned. It just happens. So I've got to be very, very careful. So what I'm going to try and do is go around this side of the little Abbey and see if I can light up the AVRE or the Becky Lynch. But unfortunately, I get spotted, and I don't be able to spot them either. The Becky Lynch bounces a shot off my turret, and I'm not going to stick around because I don't want to take a hit, either a penetrating hit, naturally, because that would kill me, or just even a splash from that AVRE. So I'm going to poke around this side and see if he's coming this way, and he's not at the minute. It's like, okay, I've knocked down that tree. They're going to think I'm running that way, and I don't want to just poke out that side as well, because I've just given away where I was. I'm still not seeing that AVRE. It's like, okay, you know what, I'm going to go have a look. And unfortunately, my AVRE gets shut down by the Becky Lynch. That's not helpful. We're down to a 2v1, and I'm looking at this going, I'm probably not going to win this, right? And unfortunately, well, fortunately for me, that he misses that shot on the move, but my shot also misses, which makes it very, very awkward, because I really could have done with that shell hitting and knocking him down on his hit points. Now we're in a situation where I know that he's probably going to reload first. So what I'm going to do is I need to just eliminate him before the Becky Lynch gets here. I end up giving him my spaced armour to make it so that he shoots that. And now I'm going, okay, I've got the 180 Hesh pen in. I know I can pen that cupola with it. And we slap the shot in for 1600. And it's like, oh god, this is where I'm dead now, though, because he's fired before me, which means he's going to reload before me. And now I'm being circled by a Becky Lynch. But I've just got to get away from him. I've got to try and change this. Fortunately enough for me, he misses, which means I now have a window of opportunity to get rid of this AVRE. But I could get rid of either of them, to be honest. Because if I kill the AVRE, I'm probably dead to the Becky Lynch. But I killed the Becky Lynch, I'm probably dead to a splash from the AVRE. But we managed to shut down the AVRE. And unfortunately, this is the situation that I didn't want to be in. This mobile light tank's here. We crush him a little bit. He pens us. And right now, I'm just thinking, please bounce a shot or two off my spaced armour. Please, please, please. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen. And he shuts me down. But we finished the game with the incredible total for this tank, which is the victory. Well, victory? The defeat, sorry. The defeat. We finished with the loss, the 6 kills, 9.8k damage, ace tanker, top gun, the high caliber, 1268 base XP on a loss, which is a big, big XP on a loss. But 9,849 damage, which is a mad total. And it's like I say, this tank is well worth it. It's a hell of a lot of fun. It's got that feast or famine meme massive potential, like you've just seen. But it can be quite derpy and quite frustrating in a lot of ways. But it's well worth it for 6k gold. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!